So let's get started. And inside the One Time Club page, we'll find the home page, which is the website for this system. What really matters to us here, and today we're going to clarify several points because there are a few things that need to be explained, is that up here in this menu, I can find both the YPFS and the contract, okay? But first, let's start with the contract and we'll finish with the YPFS. First of all, the contract gives us a contract verification with an ID. And many people, let's pause here for a moment to talk about this. We'll leave it on standby to check it later. Many people go to BSC Scan, right? And well, they don't see it verified. No, they can't find it. So they say. So this is where we need to step in and show them where I can actually find this. Because if I can't get it within BSC Scan, I won't have it. And what happens then? Here we are going to begin the process of thoroughly clarifying the specific situation. And the fundamental reason for this occurrence is simply because when the One Time Club officially launched its proprietary smart contract on the blockchain, it unfortunately did not provide or openly verify the source code of the contract to the BSC Scan company for public review. For BSC Scan to give you the verified checkmark, you have to provide them with the decompiled contract, the open contract, okay? Which is what we have down here. You have to provide the open contract. What for? So that people who go into BSC to review the contract can see it. It's just a trust verification, nothing more. VSS Scan doesn't audit you. VCC doesn't do anything for you. It's just so that the user who enters VCC can review that contract, that's all. So within this specific address that is labeled as CB, which we are going to explain in full detail for you right now, guys, so please don't worry, absolutely everything goes hand in hand here within the VCC Scan platform. If we copy the CB address here, which we'll see what it is, we notice that the contract doesn't have the green check mark. Why is that? Well, because the contract is compiled, okay? What you see here is the same contract you see over there. But here, the contract is in a form that we humans can read. And what we see in the VCC is this. Compilation for what purpose? This is computer language, computational language that the system can read. We can't, but it's exactly the same. So if the One Time Club doesn't explicitly provide or offer the decompiled contract, well, they simply don't grant you that official verification checkmark. And we will be personally verifying and double checking this process a little later on in the video. Let's continue here. We're going to put this on hold because everything is connected. Everything needs to be wrapped up at the end. But let's move on to what is, let me translate it, the renunciation of ownership. Once we're inside the section for renunciation of ownership, here we need to check that we have the transaction hash from when this renunciation was made. We have the function, which is renounce role, written in bytes, where they show you the role and the address of the role that was rejected. It was executed on November 23rd, 2025, which means it's been about 40-something days. And below, we have the parameters. We have the role and the account. Supposedly here, One Time Club already translates it for us and shows us the role to admin, which is the default admin role, and gives us this code, okay? And the address or the account that is renouncing this contract is the following one. I know this might be a bit tedious for some of you, but it's necessary to understand everything that comes next. Once I come here, I've already seen this, but I need to check if this has really been renounced, because this is a website, and on a website, I can write whatever I want, whatever comes to mind, just to make you believe it, but I have to verify it.
Completely.
So I come here to the transaction hash, so it takes me directly to VSS Scan. And within VSS Scan, first of all, here we have the transaction or the transaction action. Let's translate it so everyone can see it. The specific blockchain transaction action that is commonly referred to as renounce functions effectively as the officially rejected contract mechanism and commences its operational cycle within the designated contract identification number located inside the Venus protocol, associated directly with the specific CB wallet address. Okay, up to this point, those people who have been monitoring these specific developments.
I'm following you because now we're saying that CB is the contract directly from Want Club.
Exactly. It's the Wonton Club contract that's inside Venus. And that, obviously, from the beginning was rejected by the address or the wallet, which is the contract creator. So here we have to come to where it says more details. Click to show more. And here inside, we'll also see the renounce role function written in bytes with the role and the account that is rejecting. Here we have the 1226, but I need to decompile this compiled information to know what it says here. Okay. What does it say here? Because here it could be telling me in binary code format that it could be saying something else, that something is being rejected or something is hidden. I need to know if what is hidden here is really the admin role. And for that, we're going to use this application called KeyCap 256. What we're going to do is, in the input parameters, we're going to write admin role, and it actually provides us with this specific snippet of code that, if you take a moment to notice, ends in the letter C. If we look at the hash ending in C, then what does it say here? Admin role. The admin role is being rejected by this contract. Regarding their resignation, they are currently submitting their formal resignation to the specific contract within the Venus system, specifically the resignation role. How can we effectively find it, and how can we accurately decipher the specific role that is written in the by field? And obviously, we absolutely need to decipher it to fully understand what it says. And what it clearly says is the admin role, with the explicit rejection of the addressee that enters the contract CB, which represents the final execution of the completed contract. Now, going back to the 1TimeClub, we have already seen this little part in detail, so let's move on to the contract section. And well, I will say this again so this live session doesn't get super long, because we could easily spend 3 full days talking here. First, let's look at the main codes we see here. The first is the Venus Mint rule. Here you see it clearly, this specific code, mainly this step. The Venus Mint rule is responsible for, once you make a new investment or start an investment within the Venus system from your personal wallet, you enter through the 1TimeClub interface. Well, this specific line of code calls Venus to receive your money. Now, in this code, there are several important points, and to explain it super simply, when Venus claims that wallet, your money from the wallet via CB, the very first thing Venus does is extract exactly 1%. Obviously, all this happens within the CB account that is located in Venus. Okay. CB extracts 1% for the famous roulette game we are playing, but remember that this roulette is filled with the 1% collected from the total amount invested daily. It gets extracted automatically. Once the money arrives at CB, CB takes out 1% for the roll at max point, fills it up, and once it is activated, the rest is swapped to VUSDT to deposit it in Venus, which is exactly where your money will be working and where you will be paid your daily returns. Okay? As you can clearly see right now, in the actual execution of this specific block of code, particularly within the demo code we have displayed here on the page, there simply isn't a single individual wallet address present that could potentially be interfering with the primary function. Okay? Everything is running exactly as intended without any external conflicts. Here we see another function, which is the claim ROI function. That is the ROI claim. This function is very important, and we'll look at it a bit later. It's the num reentran, and it's a line of code designed to prevent reentrancy attacks, which are very well known in hacks of these types of systems. The next important piece of code we have here, and we'll see it a lot throughout the code, is the Venus reading file. This Venus reading file does the exact opposite of the first code we looked at. What this Venus reading file does is the CB call. It makes the call to Venus rain file to withdraw your capital. Now, why do we find this line so often in the code? Well, because this line is responsible for withdrawals. You can see it here again. This line handles the withdrawal, withdrawing referrals from the ROI, from the total amount, or from the claim you are making directly to Venus, okay? Now, within the reading file, which is the withdrawal button, do we find any address? Now, there are no addresses, no proxy wallets, no intermediary wallets that get involved in the interaction you have from your wallet with Venus. The only interaction that obviously has to exist, this isn't magic, is the address of the CB contract that's within Venus. And it doesn't control, you can check, it doesn't control. There is no control parameter for any wallet that has control over both sending and returning our money, okay? And finally, we must look at what is possibly the most sensitive and critical piece of code within this entire contract. This is the specific function that has already drawn a significant amount of attention from auditors, which is known as the refresh pool function. Now, the refresh function itself makes a direct external call to a single unique wallet address. Okay? This particular step is vital for the overall security of the system. A single unique account. And obviously, those people who ask Gemini have already figured this out. Because if you're coming to ask Gemini, it's because you don't know much about this and you're asking an artificial intelligence. And obviously, if you don't ask a good question and don't give it all the necessary information for Gemini to understand what it needs to answer, it's going to ramble a lot and you'll end up drawing your own wrong conclusions. What the reflect pool does within the require statement is send a message to this address here, which is the only address we have in the code for making either a deposit or withdrawal call. So they present this to you as a backdoor, right? Where the scammer's address is this one we have here. And obviously, what they don't notice is that it says Venus control only, meaning it can only be controlled by Venus. Now they say, no, there's a backdoor within Venus. They have this address to take our money. Obviously, that's not the case, guys. And here again have the non-rentable, which is responsible for the security of the management, making sure there's no phishing within the system. And beyond that, guys, we don't see any other addresses. Here we find this address again, the one ending in C255, and we don't find anything else within the contract. Simple. The rest is technical. It's readable, but, well, many of you might be wondering, Jose, what is this? What is this code? For me, this code or an address, a wallet within the system makes me nervous. And what you simply have to do is come here and copy this address. See, I'm copying it live in front of you. It ends in C. And then we're going to go to BCC scan and paste that address. Here it is. I'm not fooling you. And we're going to check who owns that wallet. And here we can clearly see that this contract actually belongs to the planet Venus. Creator contract, Venus. Inside here, we can find a lot of things. A lot of things. And here, we're going to start being a bit more cautious and go a little slower because there's a lot to see in here, okay? Up to this point, we've seen that the contract is rejected. We've either checked or left pending the verification. We've seen that within the code, money is only sent and withdrawn from Venus. There are no intermediary wallets, except for this contract, which is C, which is obviously Venus's. So far, we've looked at these parameters, we've noticed these little details, but I have to keep examining, I have to keep searching, and there are still many things to see. So once I'm in here, I find the nearly or more than 700 contracts that exist within this Venus contract, which is the Venus protocol. And obviously, we're not the only participants here. We're not the only ones who have our deposit here. Venus is a gigantic protocol with a per capita volume of over $1 trillion. And, well, we're not the only ones. But I want to find my contract. We're talking about 1TimeClub, not Venus. I see that my contract or the contract address that's within the source code of 1TimeClub is the Venus contract. But what do I do here? What's going on here? What I need to do here is come here. When we come to where the contract creator is, here we have the tracker tokens. Let's go in here where it says Venus USBT. At this point, it's going to be a bit slower. There's a lot of information loading on this page.
I'm totally following everything. Now, one thing, just to clarify about the difference, Venus can't be created, right? You can't create NFT positions inside, of course, to try to cheat, so to speak. What do I mean by that? We all know that on PancakeSwap, of course, NFTs are created, a position for liquidity. But what I also found out is that Venus, and that's why I'm asking if you can confirm this, on Venus, you can't create a specific position. All the liquidity goes into a single pool.
Exactly.
It's not divided into different ones. Of course, like a regular one, a pie, for example, the liquidity pie, and you have a portion that belongs to you and you can't touch more than that. But on Venus, everything comes together and is grouped into just one.
Exactly. What happens then? The thing is, in PancakeSwap, or in the previous project, for example, we would create a liquidity pool. And that liquidity pool, obviously, needed to have that NFT to have explicit control, like a bank that has its gold reserves. Well, the pool has its reserve in the NFT. So what happens here? No, because here you're not creating a pool within1TimeClub. 1TimeClub is not creating a pool within the protocol. 1TimeClub is interacting with the Venom pool protocol through the CB contract, but it's not a liquidity pool. It's a contract.
Perfect. Got it. Great.
It's a smart contract, but it's not a liquidity pool. There's a pretty big difference.
Yes, exactly. Those are totally different things. That's what we want to understand. We're not speaking badly. They're just two different things. One is one thing, and the other is a protocol for loans.
So, shall we continue? Well, guys, once we're here, as you can see, we're inside. We've already checked out the tokens that Venus had, the token tracker. And once we're here, we can see the total supply of VUSD Tether. We can see the holders. There's a ton of information we can go through here at our own pace. But what I'm interested in, and I keep saying this, what I'm interested in is finding the contract. Here you can see the token contract, the C wallet that's inside the 1TimeClub code. And what I want to do is come here where it says holders. If you haven't translated it, it says holders here, or titulares. And in holders, I'm going to find all the smart contracts that are linked to Venus protocol. Here we see the top 1,000 holders. The top, meaning there are many more. The top 1,000 holders who are working and are part of this system. Here you can see all the contract addresses. So which one are we interested in finding, guys? The CB, which is the wallet or contract that starts working within Venus, can be found at rank 106. That's where we find the CB contract. And if we go back to the VCC, you'll be able to confirm that it's this one. You'll be able to see it for yourselves. And by clicking inside the C contract, that's where we can see the entire interaction. We can see that it has 15,554,820,048.
BUSD. Those are the B tokens.
These aren't dollars. These aren't dollars. That's the
B tokens. What can we say about the bus so that people understand so you can participate in Venus? I take advantage of it while it loads. Exactly. Venus works through V tokens, and BUSD is like a participation token. So what do I mean? When you add USDT, in reality, on Venus, you have to get a kind of participation receipt as confirmation that your USDT is being put to work within Venus, and that's what the BUSDT are for. In other words, our smart contract in QuantingClub, that is the QuantingClub contract, obtains and verifies that it is indeed generating BUSD, and that gives total clarity that the funds are going where they should, leaving no doubt whatsoever, with mathematical certainty, that they are entering Venus.
Correct. And even more so, we're seeing that I'm checking the holders who have contracts within Venus. I'm not going to another page. I'm staying within the token tracker for Venus tokens. You can see it here. I haven't gone anywhere else. I'm just here reviewing the funds inside Venus. And here you can first see the CB contract. All right, guys, we're back here where we started at the beginning with the verification. Why is it that on VCC scan, when I go with my CB contract, it's not verified? Well, I told you it was because of the compilation, because the contract wasn't opened up to VSS scan. But when 1TimeClub enters the Venus protocol, obviously here it does have to open its book, because this is where the project operates, where it works, where the profits are generated within the Venus protocol. So we can see that here we do have the check mark. And if we go into the contract, here in the contract, we can actually see the fully functional contract, right? It's working. It controls and manages all the processing for 1TimeClub so that we can operate here, okay? Here you have the borrow. You can find everything. Yes, here it is. And you can find it both decompiled and compiled, just as it appears on BSCA. What you see here is the same, but for computer language, and here for human language. By providing Venus with the open decompiled contract from QuantingClub, well, here they show you the verification check, okay? Because many people say, no, it's not verified, but that's a real lie, even if it has an IDE, and even if the idea is recognizable within VCC scan. because you copy this, paste it into VCC, and it takes you to a page. But if you don't know, well, you won't realize that the contract is rejected within Venus where it should be. Actually, VCC Scan is just a company that will give you the check mark if you've opened it. If not, then no. It's just like a trust indicator, nothing more. Because it doesn't actually audit you. It's not like it says, look, I'm going to review all your code, I'm going to ensure your security, and then give you the check mark. If that were the case, there wouldn't have been so many protocols and projects that had the verification check from VCC Scan and still ended up with crazy staff issues. So the check mark is the least important thing here. What's really important is to properly review where we're working, what the system does, and what actions it performs. It's useless to me to just say, oh, it has a verification, I'm going in, without knowing what's actually inside the system. Obviously, not everyone knows how to program, but that's why we're here, to inform you, to educate you, so you can see what's inside, even though many people remain skeptical. Still, there are many people who do want to keep moving forward, and well, they can have this option and this clarity and confidence to achieve their goals in the future. Now, all that's left is to look at how transfers work here. First, we can see the actions, well, the transaction hashes, and the actions generated by 1Club, specifically the invest action, which is the investment that goes from your wallet to Venus. We have the action for withdrawing the ROI. Remember that when we claim our reward starting from 50 cents, the money is placed in the ROI. And from there, we have the option to reinvest starting from $10 or withdraw it to my wallet. Okay. And here you can see the ROI action. We can see the option to withdraw everything when we have referral earnings. When we have referrals, we have a balance in referrals and the balance in the ROI. Well, there I can choose to avoid withdrawing separately and avoid paying double commission, double gas fees. So I go to the withdrawal section where I withdraw everything I have, both from referrals and from the ROI. Okay. And everything is withdrawn at once. And well, the referral earnings, which we don't have here, there's no separate withdrawal action for referrals. Normally, people prefer to withdraw everything together, but it's the same. It works the same way. Now, where do all these buttons function and take action? In the smart contract, where does it operate, reside, call, and request from home? With Venus, there's no one else involved. You could spend the whole day here checking, and you'll see that the only interaction is with C, which is the rejected contract, and the contract within Venus that allows us to interact with this protocol. In Venus, there's no one else here. You won't see any extra wallets. You won't see anything other than C and Venus. We have another way to check this contract, which is by copying it here and, of course, going to Arkham Intelligence to see the interactions that the address or contract within Venus has. We can see that most of the balance of the wallet inside the smart contract, which is the contract that 1TimeClub uses to interact with Venus, is mostly in BUSDT, with a total and increasing acquisition of 155,431,009 BUSD. These are tokens, not dollars, guys. All right.
Exactly. That's very good. It's very good that that's where the BUSD tokens are also being accumulated, probably with what they're receiving for the exchange, because you need to have those tokens. If you don't have those tokens, Venus makes them.
Exactly. Anyway, for example, let's go back here. And when you request a withdrawal action, for example, to withdraw everything, when CB asks Venus to withdraw X amount of money, let's say in this case $613, those $613 go through a swap, okay, because they come from Venus in BUSD. They do a swap to change to USDT so that CB can pay you correctly to your wallet, okay? It comes in this currency, in BUSD Tether. And while this wallet also has a very small balance of $4.77 in USDT. Okay, now what am I interested in? Well, to check and have a second option regarding what we were seeing here, where there's only movement between C and B and what is Venus, and well, Arkham Intelligence, by visualizing what it does and how this platform interacts, gives us a broader view of what Venus Protocol is, interacting only with the address or contract that is within CB. And we can see the magnitude of people making withdrawals, whether they are claims, withdrawals with ROI, and the people represented by the green lines who are depositing and investing here. There are $1,000, $100 being invested directly into CB, where there's only interaction with Venus Protocol. There are no intermediary wallets. There is no proxy wallet.